20. Saudi Arabia. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.297. Armed Forces Personnel, 252,000, 1. 7% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 897, 1.7% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $57.5 billion, 8.4% of GDP. 19. Spain. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.290. Armed Forces Personnel, 199,000, 0.9% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 503, 0.9% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $17.4 billion, 1.4% of GDP. 18. Israel. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.262. Armed Forces Personnel, 178,000, 4.3% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 597, 1.1% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $21.7 billion, 5.6% of GDP. 17. Australia. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.238. Armed Forces Personnel, 59,000, 0.4% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 430, 0.8% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $27.5 billion, 2.1% of GDP. 16. Germany. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.232. Armed Forces Personnel, 184,000, 0.4% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 617, 1.2% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $52.8 billion, 1.4% of GDP. 15. Indonesia. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.225. Armed Forces Personnel, 676,000, 0.5% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 462, 0.9% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $9.4 billion, 0.9% of GDP. 14. Iran. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.210. Armed Forces Personnel, 650,000, 2.4% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 543, 1.0% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $15.8 billion, 2.2% of GDP. 13. Turkey. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.196. Armed Forces Personnel, 512,000, 1.5% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 1,057, 2.0% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $17.7 billion, 2.8% of GDP. 12. Egypt. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.187. Armed Forces Personnel 836,000, 3.0% of labor force. Active military aircraft 1,062, 2.0% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $4.5 billion, 1.2% of GDP. 11. Italy. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.180. Armed Forces Personnel 342,000, 1.3% of labor force. Active military aircraft 864, 1.6% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $28.9 billion, 1.6% of GDP. 10. Brazil. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.170. Armed Forces Personnel 762,000, 0.7% of labor force. Active military aircraft 669, 1.3% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $19.7 billion, 1.4% of GDP. 9. Pakistan. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.157. Armed Forces Personnel 943,000, 1.3% of labor force. Active military aircraft 1,387, 2.6% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $10.4 billion, 4.0% of GDP. 8. United Kingdom. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.138. Armed Forces Personnel 149,000, 0.4% of labor force. Active military aircraft 693, 1.3% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $59.2 billion, 2.2% of GDP. 7. France. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.128. Armed Forces Personnel 304,000, 1.0% of labor force. Active military aircraft 1,055, 2.0% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $52.7 billion, 2.1% of GDP. 6. South Korea. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.126. Armed Forces Personnel 613,000, 2.1% of labor force. Active military aircraft 1,595, 3.0% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $45.7 billion, 2.8% of GDP. 5. Japan. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.120. Armed Forces Personnel 261,000, 0.4% of labor force. Active military aircraft 1,449, 2.7% of global fleet. Defense expenditure 2020 $49.1 billion, 1.0% of GDP. 4. India. Global Firepower Power Index score 0.098. Armed Forces personnel, 3,045,000, 0.6% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 2,167, 4.1% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $72.9 billion, 2.9% of GDP. 3. China. Global Firepower Power Index, or 0.051. Armed Forces personnel, 2,535,000, 0.3% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 3,285, 6.2% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $252.3 billion, 1.7% of GDP. 2. Russia. Global Firepower Power Index, or 0.050. Armed Forces personnel, 1,454,000, 2.0% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 4,173, 7.8% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $61.7 billion, 4.3% of GDP. 1. United States. Global Firepower Power Index, score, 0.045. Armed Forces personnel, 1,388,000, 0.8% of labor force. Active military aircraft, 13,247, 24.9% of global fleet. Defense expenditure, 2020, $778.2 billion, 3.7% of GDP.